Hi guys, today we're going to talk about another little bit more technically difficult repair. Probably not many people are going to use the instructions in this video, as the computer I'm working on today, it is a little bit older one, an older model, and I'm talking about the 27-inch Imac from 2011. What I'm going to do here is actually reflow the graphic card, or you can use the same instructions. I'm not going to show you how the reflow is done, as for that you need specialized tools, but I'm going to show you how to replace the graphic card in your iMac should you decide to do this repair yourself. Now, the reason I'm doing this video today is because actually it's late 2018. We're in November of 2018, and I still see couple iMacs from 2011 brought in my shop every month, meaning that people are still using them. They're not bad. They're not a bad machine. Of course, it's a little bit outdated, as I said, but not as much as you might think. So I have a lot of musicians which they still use a certain version of the software which can only work with an older operating system. That's why they cannot upgrade to a newer iMac or to a newer Mac, which will not support the aforementioned older operating system, like Lion, Mountain Lion, or even older. Anyways, long story short, how do you know that your iMac needs the graphic card replaced or repaired? Basically, when you turn it on, the screen would have either a bunch of dead pixels, a gray hue to it, horizontal or vertical lines, or it might even be something like this one. I'm gonna turn it on and I'll show you how the screen on this iMac looks once it's turned on. So okay, so as you see, it has a bunch of lines going down on the screen. While you can still see the Apple logo, the computer might start to boot, will go up to halfway through the boot, then you'll get this kind of stuff and the computer will freeze. It will freeze 2/3 of the way. Why? Because that's when the graphic card, the dedicated graphic card, will initialize, because before the computer was using the built-in one, which is the Intel graphics, which is handled by your CPU. Now I'm gonna shut off the computer, and as I said, let's without further ado, let's get to fixing this iMac. So as I said, I will show you how to replace your graphic card. Graphic cards nowadays, depending on which one you have, if it's a 1 gigabyte of video memory or 2 gigabytes, the prices might vary, but for a basic 1 gigabyte one, probably you'll find it for around $120 on eBay. Make sure you don't buy one which says it's refurbished, as that definitely was reballed or reflowed. Many people are saying the reflow is not an option to repair it. Trust me when I'm saying this, over the years I repaired, if not hundreds, but maybe thousands of computers, iMacs, HPs. They used to have this problem. All of them would reflow, and maybe out of the rate of success of the repair is probably over 90% of the cases. Many people will say, oh no, the graphic chip is bad, you'll have to replace it, or some people would advertise, oh, this is a graphic card with the second generation chip put on. Now let me tell you something, that's a bunch of bullshit, right? Because there is no second generation of that particular chip. The graphic cards in iMac, or if you have a MacBook Pro 15 or 17 inch from the same year, from 2011, and it has these symptoms, you'll find probably a motherboard which says, because in a MacBook Pro the graphic card is not replaceable, so you'll buy the whole motherboard. It will say, oh, it's a new and improved second generation chip. Now let me ask you something. You think that Nvidia or AMD, which are the manufacturer of those cards, after the problem was discovered by Apple, which took took them probably around 2 years after the release of the first 2011 MacBook Pro or iMac. They already changed the technology of manufacturing the graphic chips. They moved to a different architecture. You think that they released an old generation, newer cards which were improved and they didn't have that issue? No, it didn't. So if you see that second generation cheap crap, don't believe that. It's the same original chip. So if the chip is the problem, they just swap the chip with the one chip which was from the same generation, and end of the story. Now, I was telling you, the reflow is also very, if done properly, again, if it's done properly, the reflow, it will be as good as an option as getting a new card. Why? Because most of the time the problem is with, I'll show you a chip. This is, I don't know how much you're gonna be able to see. This is how a graphic chip looks like. You see it right there. And on it, you notice there are those little balls right there. Now, all those are connections to the main board. It has around 900 something of them, 952 in some computers. Now, the problem is the iMac and the MacBook Pro, they have problems overheating. When the graphic chip gets to a certain temperature, also the solder which Apple used in that years was inferior to other years in terms of pretty much the melting point of the solder was lower than what it should be. So due to the heat generated by the computer, some of those little pins would become unsoldered from the main board. That's why you have this problem. So if the solder is reapplied and you're using a high quality, not the Chinese balls or anything like that, you don't need to buy the little balls which you have to put there. No, it's a much simpler. People like to overcomplicate things, and by the way, that's the reason I have this channel, and I'm trying to educate you guys on how to do certain repairs, because it's not as hard as some people might claim it is, and then you're gonna be fooled into paying large amounts of money, especially if you're dealing with certain brands authorized repair shops. So they will charge a lot of money for something you can pretty much do it yourself. So anyways, with that said, I'm going to show you how to change the graphic card. You can find a used one on eBay for around $100 something. You can replace this, you can do this job in about, probably it's going to take you around 2 hours. So, you know, it's a nice a weekend project, if you might. So yeah, now let me show you how this is done. So we're gonna move this camera a little bit so you guys get an idea. You can see what I'm doing. Let's see here. Okay, excuse my hand. I know you don't want to see my hand, but anyways, so I'm gonna put this. Okay, so we're gonna lay the iMac flat with the screen up. Okay. Okay, just 1 second. Okay. So we're gonna lay it flat on a bench. We will take our suction cups. It's gonna be something like this. You can find them if you don't have them. You can find them anywhere, even in a hardware store. You'll find the larger ones. Or you can buy them, again, you can buy them on eBay or Amazon for around a couple bucks. We're gonna put the suction cups, one on each side of the screen. Okay, probably you don't see the other side, but I have 2 of them, and we're gonna slowly lift it. So we're gonna lift the glass. We're gonna take the glass, we put it away onto a flat surface. Give me a second, I'll be right back. Okay, so then we'll remove, there are 4 screws on each side of the screen, which holds the screen together. Now the location of the screws, I will try to pinpoint it to you. You'll probably see it yourself once you open the computer, but you see it will be right there, one there. Let's see if I can make this a little bit clearer. On the other side probably. Okay, so let's move this here. So you have one screw here, 2, 3, and one more on the top, which this particular one is missing. Now you see these little guys right here, those are magnets, 1, 2, 3, which holds the actual screen together. When you remove the screws, make sure you try to not to get those screws caught up into those strong magnets. So let's remove the screws. I will pause the video for a second, as there's no need to show you how to remove the screw. Just want to mention that for this job you'll need a T10 bit. Okay, so once we have all the screws removed, it is time to remove the actual display. Now the way we'll do this, we will use our screwdriver and eventually a metal tool. We'll put it right, okay, we will put it in like this on the top and slowly lift the LCD. Now we don't want to lift the LCD all the way up. Why? Because the LCD still has a couple of cables which is being held. Let's see if I can show you. You see, this is the inside of the computer. Now you will have, in a 2011 one, you'll have one cable right this on your right hand side. As you're looking at the computer, you will have a ribbon cable right here, which goes into the main board, into the power, the daughter power supply. You'll pull that one straight up. It is a regular ribbon cable, which you'll pull it right out. Then we can lift the screen even more. We will disconnect next. We'll disconnect the LCD connector. Let me see if I can zoom on it and show you guys what I'm talking about and how this is supposed to be done. Okay, so this is the inside of the computer. Now your LCD cable, it is, let's see if you can see, it is right here. On this one it has two flaps on each side of the computer. So I'll show you right now. Once the screen is removed, I'm going to show you how. This is the connection of the LCD. You see there are two tabs right here on the side which you can press. You see? Like that. So the way you remove it, you grab it with 2 fingers, you press these flaps on the side, the plastic one, and you'll pull it right out. And then there is one more cable, which is, hold on, let me zoom it out a little bit. Okay. Now something happened with my goddamn camera, so excuse the cussing. Let's see what's going on. I lost the connection, so again I'll have to at some point upgrade the camera, but for now it should do it, as this is not my main job, so for now it should be just fine. Okay. Let's see, a little technical difficulty. Okay. So the other cable which we are going to remove is right here. Do you see this one? Right here. This is the power to the LCD. So you will press it down. It has also a plastic tab. You'll press it right here and pull the cable right out. Now you will also have a sensor cable right here. Okay. This sensor cable can also be very easy. So as I was saying, there is this little cable, which is the sensor for the LCD. You will just pull it right out of its socket. It is, let's see, you can actually see it. You see it's one of these little pins will pull it right out. Now with all the cables disconnected, you can safely remove your LCD. And I'm gonna put this on the side. And I'm gonna show you which one it's actually your graphic card into this machine and how we will manage to remove it. Now on this particular one, it is a little bit easier to remove it. Why? I'll show you right now, because you won't have because in this particular model you won't have to remove the whole. Now I see that this computer had an SSD installed on it. I guess the previous guys, they didn't have the right wow, okay, they didn't have the right here it was a 3.5 inch was supposed to be a 3.5 inch hard drive. The SSD, it's a 2.5 inch, so you need an adapter to make it fit properly here. They didn't have, or the customer didn't want to pay for it, even though it's like probably a $15 part. They use tape, so whatever might work, but that's not what we're talking about right now. I'm going to show you which one is your graphic card and how to easily remove it in this particular model if you have this one. This right here, it's your graphic card. Okay, right here, this guy right here. Now in newer models, actually this looks like it's late 2010, even though when it's when I put in the serial number, it shows me it's a 2011, which is weird, as 2011 they would have a different connection right here. But anyways, it looks like it's a 210, to be honest with you. So on this one, on the newer model, you will have to remove the whole main board in order to reach to the graphic card to remove it, because these screws, 1, 2, 3 screws, would be on the opposite side of the board. On this one, you are lucky if you find that the screws are on the top. So I'll show you how to remove the graphic card without removing the actual motherboard, which will make your life much easier. So let's proceed. So you see here there is a little connector, which is actually the connection for the Wi-Fi. Yeah, this is definitely a 2010 one, not a 2011. So we will remove this one. In the newer one, you will have the Wi-Fi card right about here, and you'll have the 3 antennas. You'll be able to actually see it right next to the graphic card. So yeah, this is an older model of it. Okay, now I'll show you which screws you'll have to remove and how to remove the graphic card without removing that. So you have 1, 2, 3 screws there, and then you will have one more screw, which is right here, holding the heatsink together. Okay, now we'll start with these 3 screws. For that I'll have to change the bit. Let's see, the bit we will use, it is a T8. It works 8. So we'll remove 1, 2, oops, okay, take your time, don't do what I'm doing. So 3 right here, and we remove the one on right here. We'll remove that one as well. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now, if you noticed, we can slightly move the graphic card up and down. So it is caught up in a connection which looks something like this, but much wider. Now all we have to do is slightly lift up the graphic card and move it left to right. Now don't pull it, because look what can happen. If you pull it suddenly, you have these very tiny components on the main board by the connector. Hold on, where are you? Come on, come in the okay, right there. See, you have these little components, and you have the connector right there for the screen, the LVDS connector. You have these components. So if you pull it straight, you're gonna knock the components out of the board. So we're gonna lift, we will lift a little bit this one out, and you will put the graphic card nicely out. Now also on the graphic card you have a sensor, a temperature sensor, which is connected on the other side of the board. Fortunately for this, all we have to do is just push on the connector with the tweezers, and we pulled out the actual sensor connector from the other side of the board. Putting it back without removing the motherboard might turn out to be a little bit difficult, but with a little bit of patience you can definitely do it. Now, since we have the graphic card out, we're gonna remove the computer. Let's take it off the table, and I'll show you what to look for. So most of the time you will find the graphic card that is coming pre-assembled with the heatsink. Okay, so basically when you buy a new or used graphic card, it will come something like this, right? Now sometimes it will come just the graphic card itself. Now, so you'll have to keep your heatsink. The way you remove the heatsink is very easy. You see you have two screws right here, one there and one here. Okay, so you'll use the same T8 screwdriver. We'll remove those two screws, one, and let's see, I need something to get a little, okay, two, and you have at this end you'll have another screw which is holding the heatsink together, and we'll remove that as well. And now the back of the heatsink, it's removed. We're gonna put this on a side, and this is the actual graphic card right here, which you see it is caught up with these 4 screws. Now it's your choice if you wanna go with the Phillips screwdriver onto this side, or you wanna disconnect these screws. I typically go on the back side of it and just remove the torque screws. One, two, three, four. Now with those screws removed, it is time to open up the graphic card. Now what you see here onto the graphic card, it is actually they're using a thermal compound to make the connection, the heat transfer with the heatsink, and you have this little whitey looking piece. This is a it is also a thermal compound, but that's not a paste, that is an actual thermal pad. Now if you can salvage this, you can do that as well. So you'll scrape it from your graphic card and put it back into your old heatsink, or you could order thermal pads. They should be around $5. Just order a new set of thermal pads. Those are not that important. So those are basically controlling, I mean they're making the heat transfer from the actual RAM. I'm sorry. So as I was saying before I was interrupted, these ones are transferring the heat from the actual video memory into the heatsink. Now that video memory does not get very hot, so that's why I tell you guys to probably reuse those pads if possible, if they're not very damaged. What's generating the heat is the actual graphic chip. Now you want to remove, when you order your card, it will be something like this. I will show you soon how to reassemble it once you get it. I have to fix this one first. Also keep in mind, please remove the old thermal paste from your heatsink and reapply a good quality thermal paste. You could use Arctic Silver, you could use pretty much that's more than a decent thermal compound. So I'll be back in a little bit to show you how to reassemble the card once you have it, put it on a heatsink, and how to put it inside of your computer. Okay? Okay guys, so let's say you received your brand new graphic card. I will show you how to reassemble it into the old, in case you didn't get also a heatsink for it. So first thing we're going to do, we will, as I mentioned, we will reapply the thermal paste on top of the chip die. Now use a good quality one. You can buy it for around $7. I personally use the Arctic one, and when you reapply it, just put a couple of dabs. Okay, don't put extra, just put a little bit on top of the chip itself. Why you don't need to put extra is because the pure pressure when that is gonna be tightened on the heatsink, this will spread, the thermal compound will spread. Now we're gonna reapply. We make sure that those 4 screws are perfectly aligned with the holes on the graphics card. We put it in. Now we move it a little bit, okay, to make sure that it's nice and aligned. We're going to take this little retention bracket and we will start to screw in the screws. We will not tie it up right now, we're just gonna put it in place. We're gonna start with one and we go opposite way and reattach the second one. Okay, 3 and number 4. Now it's time to tie them up. Now you want to hold this side of the screw with your finger and push it down, as it has a little spring. You see, when I'm pushing it down, I don't know if you can see, but the actual screw will come out a little bit. Yeah, you won't really see it, but so anyways, we'll tie second one, third and fourth. Make sure, yep, it looks just fine. Now we will attach the back of the heatsink. Okay, so the way you do this is pretty much as I showed you. There is one screw right here which holds it all together. See, so we're gonna fasten that screw. First is the short chubby one. Okay, let's put this into my, okay, so we'll attach that first. Okay, And now we make sure that on this side the holes are going to be aligned. Let me just zoom it in a little bit so you understand what I'm talking about. Now remember, you had 2 screws right here. 1, 2. We will move the back of the heatsink, and right now they look like they are aligned, right? So we'll take the screws, and tie it up. 1 and 2. Okay. Now the graphic card is reassembled onto your heatsink, into your old heatsink. Again, if yours came already with a heatsink, then you can skip this step. Okay. Now we'll take the computer and I'll show you how to reassemble the graphic card. Again, this is a little bit easier, but in the same time a little bit complicated. What I'm trying to say by that is that we did not remove the whole motherboard in order to reach to the graphics card, which saved us a little bit of time. Now when we're gonna put the graphic card back together, we'll have to be a little bit more careful about a couple of things, and I'm gonna show it to you what exactly I mean by that. So remember, the last step at the removal of the graphic card was the removal of this little sensor, okay, sensor cable, which is caught up onto the other side of the board. Now, how we're gonna reattach it? We will take our tweezers, grab the connector, make sure it is at the right angle. So I don't know how much you can see. Do you see that these connectors, let's zoom in a little bit more. Okay, for example, in this connector, you see there is a little hole right there. Now that hole will have to align with this little piece. It has also a little, I don't know how to call it. It's like a little pin, real sticking out. So that's the way we're gonna put it in. Now, on the other side of the board, when we're gonna reapply, when we're gonna put this, the pin will have to be on the outside. So we're gonna take this connection and carefully and slowly we will reattach it onto the other side. Now again, if you don't reattach this properly, what's gonna happen is basically the fan will work at full speed because they will not detect the temperature of the graphic card. Okay, so make sure you take your time right here. Do it slowly, and okay, perfect. The cable is where it's supposed to be. Now let's see here. This is how we're going to put back the graphic card. Pretty much you'll have to align these little holes 1, 2, 3 with the holes on the board 1, 2 and 3. So we're gonna put it to a little bit of an angle. So you'll start, the position would be after the LVDS connector at a little bit of an angle. You don't do it straight, you'll do it angled a little bit. Okay, so we're going to push the card a little bit with the finger, not much, and then slide it. Make sure you pass through all the tiny little components right there, and then we're gonna push it straight, and then you should feel, okay, you should feel that the card got into its connection, which it actually did, because it is perfectly tight here. and as you see, the screws are perfectly aligned with the holes on the board itself. Okay, so now we're just going to put the screws back in once I find my screwdriver. Okay, so there were 3 screws. I'll do 1, 2, 3. Okay. And we're gonna have, okay, 1, 2, 3 right there. And we have another screw. Don't forget about this one. It's not that important, but still, you wanna put all the screws in. So it's the screw which is right here at the end of the heatsink. Okay. So we're gonna. It's always this a bit of a problem. There we go. Got in. Okay. So that reassembled. Now it's time to bring back the LCD. Okay. Let's see. I don't know why this is the guy is doing this, but okay. Now we're gonna see kind of half of the picture, but that should suffice. So we'll take our LCD and make sure which side is the bottom. So basically where you have the ribbon cable connection, which is right here, this is the top part. We're going to put it in just like this into the iMac. Okay. We will reattach the cables, and I'll show you right now how that is done once I set up my camera. Okay. So. Okay. Okay. So we're gonna reattach the cables, right? Okay. Now, here we're gonna work in reverse order. So we're gonna take the LCD cable, we're gonna put it straight in. You should hear a little click. Okay. Now don't forget about the oh, you know what, you see, thanks God I remember, and don't do the same mistake as me. Make sure you put back the Wi-Fi cable onto the main board. Okay, so make sure that's in. Now we can put the LCD. Yeah, well, we all make mistakes, especially when we're live in front of the camera. Nah, just kidding. Okay, so we'll put the LCD cable, then we will have to add the sensor cable in. Then we will connect right here. Let's see. We will do the power supply, which is, let's see. So we'll do the power supply cable, which goes right in here. And last but not least is the tiny ribbon cable. Okay, the tiny ribbon cable which goes right here. Probably you're not gonna see it because I have to close the screen. Okay. And boom, that's in. We'll double check that all the cables are inside. So LCD cable it's inside, the sensor it's inside, the power cable it's inside, and the ribbon cable is inside. Now we're gonna sit slowly the LCD down. We're gonna reapply the screws one by one. And if you want to save yourself some trouble, you want to check that the screen is actually working because you assembled the graphic card properly. We're just gonna do one screw on each side of the screen, so choose the easiest one to put in. So it will be this fella right here, which there are no magnets around it. Okay, we'll put one in there and one on the other side. And why we're doing this is because you don't want to reassemble the whole screen, put the glass on top of it, turn the computer on and realize, oh, I forgot to connect something, or I did not assemble we didn't assemble the graphic card correctly. So we're gonna do a test on it. Take the computer, flip it, okay, put it in its regular position, and let's actually connect the power cable and turn this bad boy on. Remember, in the beginning it had the lines, the nice pink lines coming down the screen. Now let's see how this one will behave right now. Okay, make sure that's in. Yep, okay, it is in, and this is in. Okay, and we're gonna turn on the computer. Okay, now let's see. And boom, we have the computer starting. We have the white screen. We don't have those nice lines going around it, which is a good sign. And now we're gonna wait for the Apple logo, and we should be good to go. We can put the glass back on. Okay. Let's see. Come on, buddy. Chop chop. Okay, so we have the Apple logo. Perfect. So with that said, the repair is pretty much done. I hope this worked for you guys. You learned something from this, and don't be scared to take on new things, try new things, try new repairs. Any questions, you might contact me on YouTube, leave a message, like, subscribe to my channel, and hopefully I'll see you to the next video. Okay, with that said, have a good one, all the best.